Good morning and welcome to the great city of East Point, where there's no point like East Point. And today that is because I just enjoyed an amazing walking tour with Secretary Pete Buttigieg here in the great city of East Point to hear about not only the things that we're doing, but also the needs that we have and how they align with the American Jobs Plan. And so when I ran as council member and mayor, I said that we were going to be at a place where one day we would be ready to be able to really receive the funding that could come from the federal and state government to really help empower and impact and transform, rebuild, and build back better our community. And today, this tour, I believe, shows that and also really helps us connect in a way that we haven't connected before. And so I am overjoyed, honored. I've been trying to figure out a word and I haven't made one up yet to say just how excited I am to be here today, to be able to introduce and bring up right now the Secretary Pete Buttigieg. And what makes this so special is that Secretary Pete is a former mayor. And so as we were walking and talking, like being able to have that perspective and know that that perspective is in DC and really communicating with the administration to really make sure that the people that government is supposed to be served. Government is for the people, of the people, by the people, and unfortunately sometimes it feels like people are left out. But when you have former mayors in positions, you know that the people's voice is being heard and that there will be things that will happen in our communities during this administration that will be transformative and most importantly impactful to communities of color who have been really disinvested and really have reaped the havoc of disparities for so long. We now have a chance to dismantle inequities, and so I'm awesomely proud to bring up Secretary Pete Buttigieg around the equity and ensuring equity moving forward. And this whole tour and connection was brought together by Partnership for Southern Equity and Nathaniel Smith, an organization and consulting company that's working with the city to make sure that equity and inclusion is more than a cliche in the city. It's not just what we say, it's who we are, it's what we do, and most importantly, our people will be able to grow with us as we continue to grow and be a vibrant, thriving, just, equitable, inclusive, fair community. Our legacy residents and legacy businesses will be here as well. So without further ado, Secretary Pete.
Great.
So we're not
Thank you, Mayor.
a few quick questions from folks. It's pretty informal, so we're just, yeah.
Secretary, you've been able to go face to face with some of Atlanta's biggest challenges along the lines of the airport, maybe some traffic around here, development around transit centers. How does the infrastructure plan look to overcome these challenges?
Well, this is exactly why the President's American Jobs Plan is so important. It's responding to the needs that we have, but it's not just patching up or restoring or improving what we've had all along. It's also a vision for the future, and that's part of why I'm excited to be here with the mayor and council members and MARTA leadership. You know, it's one thing to hear about when I'm talking to Congresswoman Williams or Senator Ossoff or Senator Warnock and hear them describe what's going on in their communities. It's another to get out here and see it, because what you see is a sense of imagination, you see a sense of vision, you see a commitment to inclusion, like the vision to make sure that the transit-oriented development that we have here is also affordable as it comes to be more and more desirable. But the truth is, we can't just expect communities, often low-income communities, to shoulder this burden on their own. So whether we're talking about a big city where you need infrastructure just to make it possible to live at that density, or a rural area where you need infrastructure to make it possible to live at all, or communities like East Point that really sit at the gateway to a major city. So much depends on us making sure that there are federal resources to help. If we really want to have the best experience in the world for people getting around, whether you're getting ready to catch an international flight or whether you're just trying to get to work or school, we've got to put our money where our mouth is, and that's literally what the President's vision does.
Secretary Buttigieg, I wanted to ask about our Atlanta belt line. It's been planned for many, many years now, and criticism is that originally it was intended for light rail or some type of transit component. Developers have come in, they've built thousands of apartments, and there's no transit component. What can the federal government do through this to try and assist with that?
Well, we believe in public transit, and we need to fund public transit accordingly. It's why the $85 billion commitment in the jobs plan doubles federal support for public transit. You know, local communities will form their vision about how to proceed, but a lot of that is dictated by whether the funding is there. There's the sales tax. Here's a community that has been ready to tax itself to put its skin in the game. Now we've got to make sure that there's federal backing too. And I'm looking forward to seeing the Beltline for myself, I think, later on today, and really getting a sense also of what steps can be taken to make sure that all of that newly desirable housing there is also affordable housing.
How quickly can some of these trillions of dollars in infrastructure improvements be actually put into effect and people can start seeing shovels on the ground?
Well, there are plans that the mayor was describing to me and that we've heard about that are already very fully or well developed and could move that much faster if there was the funding. So when you talk about shovel-ready projects, we just saw one across the way. There's so many things that communities are seeking to do that we know would benefit from those resources. MARTA has been planning in a really visionary way for what the next 20 years are going to look like, and they've got that figured out. The mayor was describing to me the inventory that her leadership has done on the most important and unsexy infrastructure of all, which is water and wastewater. Having to figure out by age, right? You were saying they've kind of aged out the different pieces of it so they know which needs the most attention most urgently. My point is, there's a pretty clear roadmap for where the needs are. We just got to be ready to plow the resources in. And also support planning to take shovel-worthy projects that aren't shovel-ready yet and get them through the pipeline. Remember, this isn't just a stimulus plan designed to get us through this year. This is about making sure that when we're looking back in the 2040s on what we did in the early 2020s, we say, okay, this is how we set up America to win the future, one community at a time.
We've got time for one more question. Sorry.
Secretary, you're obviously in Metro Atlanta today, but rural areas are so imperative to allow metro areas to thrive like this. What are some of the things in the plan that you're thinking about for rural areas specifically?
Well, that's right, and this is one of the things that's been a frequent theme when I'm talking to Senator Warnock, Senator Ossoff, who are describing the very different communities that they represent. And one of the biggest things is just literally getting connected to the economy through good broadband. Now, the president's vision gets every single American affordable, that's important, as well as high-speed internet access. And that step alone, especially as these last months have taught us, is hugely important. Transit also is not only a story for the biggest metros in the world. Often, rural transit is a lifeline. Especially true for people with disabilities, people trying to get to VA hospitals, where sometimes those resources come in a very critical way. So whether we're talking about roads and bridges or whether we're talking about the future infrastructure around the internet, we know that it's often in rural communities that there's the most on the line. So thanks again for joining. Really, really inspired by what I'm seeing here in East Point and excited to continue our visit through the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary.
Thank you, Secretary.
Thank you.